Hello, beautiful people. We are going to get in today to lesson 4.1 called 2 Weeks Later. So we're going to be needing a few things as we read today. So the things that you need to have out, you're going to need your copy of The Miracle Worker. You're going to need a pencil and paper. I highly recommend having a pencil and paper to write down some of the answers to the questions as we go. If you want to have the form open while you watch the video, that's totally an option, but you do not have to. And if you're on your phone, that might be difficult. If you're on a laptop, that's a little easier. But you definitely need a pencil and paper to make sure you're writing down the answers to the questions so that you can do a great job on your exit ticket that you will have using Microsoft Forms. Please watch this video all the way through. If you watch this video all the way through, I know you will do a great job on your exit ticket. If you don't watch it all the way through, I can definitely tell because you're giving me sloppy answers. So make sure that you're doing a good job on this so that you can get a good grade. All right, so here we have two objectives. Our first objective is students will be able to explain how the author can use lighting and stage to create two separate scenes at once. We're going to be looking at both the stage and stage directions to really try to visualize how multiple scenes can be going on at the same time. And then at the end, part of your exit ticket will be to write an expository paragraph about tough love. Now, don't panic when you hear the words expository paragraph. I know it's been a while. I'm going to walk you through it and give you an example expository paragraph, and we'll talk about that more when we get to it. Okay, so the output today, you will write an expository paragraph explaining whether or not tough love can change a person's behavior. Just like I said, I'm going to walk you through writing that expository paragraph. So you don't need to stress or worry about, I don't necessarily remember all the parts to it. If you watch this video all the way through, you will have a really easy time writing that expository paragraph. All right, so let's review the parts of the stage in order to help us understand today's scene. So this is a diagram that you have seen before, but I know that it has been a while. So we need to identify, here's our word bank up here, and I'll highlight the words in the word bank. Stage left, stage right, the apron, and the audience, okay? So stage right and stage left are kind of confusing because you might be looking at this and going, well, this is my right and this is my left, right? Or this is my right and this is my left. But if we're looking at this is from the point of view of the actors. So when the actors are turned around looking in the audience, even though this is my left-hand side, this is called stage right. And even though we are looking at it from the audience is the right-hand side, that's stage left because it's from the point of view of the actors. Down here, this is the part of the stage that it extends out. And it kind of covers the orchestra pit, and we call that the apron. And then out here is the audience. So the audience is looking up at the stage, the actors are turned around, and they are acting to the audience. You're going to need to know these four parts. So if I were you, I would draw on my paper a quick diagram and label stage right, stage left, apron, and audience. Hint, hint. All right, so let's talk for a minute about the set versus the stage. The stage is literally just the surface that you're acting on. That's it. Like a blank stage wouldn't have any of these things on it. This, however, we can see is part of the set. You have the table right here, right? We have the table. We have the upstairs. We can see the garden out here. This is actually from a production of The Miracle Worker. And the different parts of the stage can actually look like different rooms. So this might be the inside of the Keller's house, and then over on stage left, you might have actually the garden house. So we're going to be seeing the Keller's house and the garden house at the same time. And what's going to happen is, if this was an actual production, you would have like a lighting crew, and that lighting crew would shine a spotlight on the house when Mr. Keller and Kate and James are talking, and they would shine a different spotlight on the garden house when Annie and Percy and Helen are working together to act. Now, as we're reading this, we as readers don't necessarily get the benefit of watching it. When you're watching it, it's super easy to follow because it's like wherever is lit, that's what you're focused on. In our reading, though, it's a lot harder to follow. And so as we read today, I'm going to be walking you through and pointing out this is where they're at, this is where they're at, and you're going to see the two different scenes going on at the same time. Before we do that, let's get into some vocabulary, some words we might need to know. Interminable is our first word. Interminable. Everyone say interminable. It means never ending, and it's often used as an exaggeration, so endless. So blank felt interminable, it was so long. Maybe quarantine felt interminable because it was so long. Maybe Ms. Tolson's class felt interminable because it was so long. So interminable means never ending. Contention. Everyone say contention. If you're having contention with someone, it means a heated disagreement or argument. So there was contention with my sister over who had to take out the trash. Maybe we were arguing. You took out the trash last time. No, I took out the trash last time. It's your turn, right? We were arguing over it. And then maybe mom came in and was like, I don't care who takes it out. Just one of you get it out of here. It stinks, right? There's contention there, or an argument. Adequate. Adequate means good enough. It's maybe not your best effort. It's good enough. Some of you have been giving me adequate work, but not really good work. Some of you have been giving me excellent, high quality work. So in this picture, you have a check mark and a person with food. So we can infer in the picture that they have an adequate amount of food. So Ms. Tolson's sentence is, I am grumpy when I don't get adequate sleep, right? Some of y'all might have been able to tell in class, like, oh, she didn't get enough sleep last night. She was extra grumpy today, right? But usually I got enough sleep. So that was good. All right, this word you've probably heard before. The word is discipline. Discipline is when you're training yourself or someone else to follow rules or complete a job. So I need to have discipline in order to make sure that I get my assignments in on time every week. I need to have discipline to make sure that I drink enough water. I need to have discipline to make sure that I exercise every day, right? These are things that I'm training myself to do. You might need discipline from a teacher or a parent to help you follow the rules a little better. All right, so we are actually going to get into reading Act 3. We are going to be finishing The Miracle Worker this week. Some of you are probably pretty excited about that because you want to know what happens. Some of you are excited about that because you're ready to move on with life. Okay, so go ahead and open your Miracle Worker book to page 83. If you can't find your book, I have it right here on the screen for you. If you also can't find your book, I have a file in the file section of the book that you can download online. And if you can't find that, you just need to send me a message in the chat and say, Ms. Tolson, can you help me find the book? And I will send it to you. Okay? All right. So remember, as we read this, we need to pay attention to the two different scenes that are happening. The one in the garden house with Annie and Helen, and the one in the main house with James and Kate and Captain Keller. The stage is totally dark until we see Annie and Helen silhouetted on the bed in the garden house. Annie's voice is audible, very patient and worn. It has been saying this for a long time. Water, Helen. This is water. W-A-T-E-R. It has a name. Silence. Then. Egg. E-G-G. It has a name. The name stands for the thing. Oh, it's so simple. Simple as birth to explain. The lights have commenced to rise, not on the garden house, but on the homestead. Then. Helen, the chick has to come out of its shell sometime. You can come out too. In the bedroom upstairs, we see Viney unhurriedly washing the window, dusting, turning the mattress, readying the room for use again. Then in the family room, a diminished group at one end of the table, Kate, Keller, and James, finishing up a quiet breakfast. Then outside, down the right, the other Negro servant on his knees, assisted by Martha, working with a trowel around a new trellis and wheelbarrow. The scene is one of everyday calm, and they are all oblivious to Annie's voice. There's only one way to find out for you. It's language, to learn that if your fingers can talk and say anything you can name, this is a mug. Mug. M-U-G. Helen, it has a name. It has a name. Kate rises from the table. All right, so pause. As we see this happening, we have the Kellers eating breakfast, and we have Annie and Helen in the garden house, right? So these are the two scenes. Kate rises from the table. You haven't eaten, Katie. I haven't the appetite. I'm too restless. I can't sit to it. You should eat, my dear. It will be a long day waiting. But it's been 2 short weeks. I never thought life could be so noiseless. Went much too quickly for me. Kate and Keller gaze at him in silence. James becomes uncomfortable. All right. So what are the two scenes going on at the beginning of Act 3? We just talked about this, right? We have the scene in the garden house and the scene in the main house. What are the things that the playwright does to let you know that there's two scenes going on at once? So let's go back. We can see from the stage directions that there's two scenes, and we can see from the way that they direct the lights. So those are the two things that can help us figure out that there's two scenes going on. Also, the characters we know are in different places. So because we know they're in different places, even though they're on the same stage, we know that there's two different scenes happening at the same time. All right, so this is page 84 and 85. And I'm starting to read right here where Annie's talking. Card, C-A-R-D, card, C-A. Well, the house has been practically normal, hasn't it? Jimmy, is it wrong to enjoy a quiet breakfast after 5 years? And you two even seem to enjoy each other. It could be even more noiseless, Jimmy, without your tongue running every minute. Haven't you enough feeling to imagine what Katie has been undergoing ever since? Kate stops him with her hand on his arm. Captain, to James, it's true. The 2 weeks have been normal, quiet, all you say, but not short, interminable. And what did interminable mean? It's right here, endless. So, according to Kate, it feels endless without Helen in the house. She rises, wanders out. She pauses at the porch steps, gazing towards the garden house. Right? So now we're going back to the garden house. Water. W-A-T-E-R. But it means this. Water. W-A-T-E-R. This. W-A-T. James. I only meant that Miss Sullivan is a boon, of contention, though it seems. So basically, James is saying here, remember, contention meant like an argument, or people having an argument. So James is saying that Annie brings lots of argument and like difficulty to the house. If and when you are a parent, Jimmy, you will understand what separation means. A mother loses a Protector. You'll learn. We don't just keep our children safe. They keep us safe. He rises with an empty coffee cup and saucer. There are, of course, all kinds of separation. Katie has lived with one kind for 5 years. Another is disappointment in a child. He goes with the cup out the rear door. James sits for a long moment of stillness. In the garden house, the lights commence to come up. Annie, haggard at the table. Haggard means really tired. So we can see that Annie is really, really worn out after 2 weeks solid of teaching nonstop. And we are, if you've lost your place, we're right in here. In the garden house, the lights commence to come up. Annie, haggard at the table, is writing a letter, her face again almost in contact with the stationery. So in order to see, she has to get really close to the page. Helen, apart on the stool, and for the first time as clean and as neat as a button, is quietly crocheting in an endless chain of wool, which snakes all around the room. So crocheting. So Miss Tolson actually crochets, and I have it right here. I crochet during my family Zoom calls. So Helen is not only clean, but has learned so much in these 2 weeks, she can actually crochet now, right? So when I started this baby blanket, it was just a ball of yarn, and now after I've done all these stitches, it's kind of curling at the end, but after I've done all these stitches, it's turning into a blanket, and by the end, it'll be a full blanket. The fact that Helen, remember at the beginning of the book, she hasn't been able to even eat with a spoon. So not only has Annie taught her all of these letters, but she's even taught her to crochet. That's pretty impressive. I feel like every day, more and more she pauses, turns the page of a dictionary open before her. Her finger descends to the word to a full stop. She elevates her eyebrow and copies the word. Inadequate. So Annie is saying she doesn't feel like she's enough. She's inadequate. So we know adequate means enough. Inadequate means you're not enough. In the main house, James pushes up and goes to the front doorway after Kate. James. Kate? Kate turns her glance. James is rather weary. Remember, weary means tired. All right, so let's talk about these. What do you think is making Kate restless? Restless is like when you can't sit still and you feel really worried. So what is Kate worried about? She's so worried, in fact, she can't eat. Who hasn't she seen in 2 whole weeks? Exactly, she hasn't seen Helen. And because she hasn't seen Helen, she doesn't know anything that Helen has learned. We, the audience, now know Helen has learned a lot. She's clean, she can keep herself clean, she even can crochet. But Kate doesn't know any of this because she hasn't seen her in 2 weeks. And then on page 85, the question says, how do you think Jimmy feels having Helen out of the house? And he says this. He says, it's actually at the bottom of 84 and the top of 85. He's like, it's been normal and quiet, and I've been able to have peace and quiet. I really, basically he's saying he really enjoyed the time without Helen. Helen to Jimmy is like a pain in the butt. But their parents are saying, no, she's not a pain in the butt. I mean, she is, but she's our child and we need to protect her. And the fact that you can't see that means you're being spoiled. So if I were you, I would pause the video here and write down the answers to those 2 questions if you haven't already. Okay, so literally, if this were me, I would take a sheet of paper and write down page 84, and then I would write down the answer to page 84, and then I do the same thing for all of the pages. All right, let's keep going. All right, so let's talk about this question. On page 85, Captain Keller says, you'll learn, we don't just keep children safe, they keep us safe. So what does he mean when he says this? Well, let's think about it. Obviously, as an adult, the parent's job is to keep the child safe. Like if the kid falls down and breaks their arm, the parent needs to like comfort them, get them the proper medication, take them to the doctor, etc. But how do kids also take care of their parents? What do kids do to their parents? They love them, they cherish them. So think about it, is it a physical taking care of or an emotional? And then this question has two parts. The second part is, what is Captain Keller trying to teach James when he says this? Okay, so think about James's behavior. Think about what Captain Keller could be saying. Guys, please don't write IDK for this question. I want you to think. I didn't tell you the actual answer, but that's okay. What do you think Captain Keller wants James to know? What is he trying to teach James here? Go back and reread that page if you're struggling with it. We are at the top of 86, right here, where Jimmy is talking. Okay, so that's where we're going to start. I'm sorry. Open my mouth. Like that fairy tale, frogs jump out. No, it has been better for everyone. She starts away up center. Okay, Annie writing. So now we're back in the garden house. So we're switching back and forth really fast. If only there were someone to help me. I need a teacher as much as Helen. Kate. So this is James again. We're back in the house. What does he want from me? That's not the question. Stand up to the world, Jimmy. That comes first. But the world is him. Yes, and no one can do it for you. Kate, his voice humble. At least could you be my friend? So here we see Jimmy actually wanting to change, right? He asks Kate to be his friend. That's a pretty big change, right? All Jimmy wants to do is make his dad happy, but he doesn't really know how, right? So Jimmy is starting to change. He hasn't changed a lot, but he's changed a little bit. I can see some hope from him. Maybe he'll grow up to be less of a jerk. Let's hope. And then Kate says, I already am your friend, which, good for Kate. Kate's being the bigger person here. Kate turns to wander up, back of the garden house. Annie's murmur comes at once, and the lights begin to die on the main house. My mind is undisciplined, full of skips and jumps, and she halts, rereads, and frowns. Annie puts her nose in the dictionary again, flips back to an earlier page, and fingers down the words. Kate presently comes down the bay window with a tray full of food. Disinterested, disjoined, She backtracks, indignant. Disinterested, disjoined, where's discipline? She goes to a page or two back, searching for the word with her finger, muttering. What a dictionary. Have to know how to spell before you can look up how to spell it. Discipline. Discipline. She corrects the word in her letter. Undisciplined. So Kate, remember, Annie. We know Annie's really smart, but she's still struggling with her spelling, and so she's using the dictionary here to help her write this letter. And it's funny, she had misspelled discipline with a K, and so she couldn't find the word because she wasn't spelling it right. Undisciplined, right? So she's still saying like she needs someone to help her because Helen is still undisciplined, and she's trying to discipline, but she's not having as much luck as she would like. But her eyes are bothering her. She closes them in exhaustion and gently fingers her eyelids. So she's literally like, just like rubbing her eyes. Kate watches her through the window. What are you doing to your eyes? Annie glances around. She puts her smoked glasses on, gets up to come over, assuming a cheerful energy. It's the worst on my vanity. I'm learning to spell. So basically she's saying like, it's making her humble because she can't be super proud of herself. She can't be full of herself because she's struggling with spelling. It's the worst on my vanity. I'm learning to spell. It's like a surprise party. The most unexpected characters turn up. You're not to overwork your eyes, Miss Annie. Well, she takes the tray, sets it on the chair, and carries chair and tray to Helen. Whatever I spell to Helen, I'd better spell right. Oh, so she's saying, if I'm going to be Helen's teacher and teach her how to spell, I need to be able to spell things correctly. All right, so let's look at some questions for these 2 pages. Why do you think Annie is frustrated with herself? So part of it is the spelling, right? She's struggling to spell, but I think it's more to it than that. She's frustrated because Helen what? Helen's not, like, she understands the letter. Helen can say W-A-T-E-R. Helen can say M-U-G. But Helen cannot, like, know, like, what water is, or what a mug is, or what a cup is, or what a pen is. Like, she knows how to spell all of these things. She just doesn't know the meaning attached to them. So Annie's been working her with solid for 2 weeks, literally spelling everything. And when you and I do sign language, we hold it up for the person to see, right? W-A-T-E-R or M-S-T-O-L-S-O-N. But Helen can't see, right? She can't hear, but she also can't see. So literally Annie is signing into her hands. W-A-T-E-R. So Helen has to do it only by feeling, which makes it even that much harder. Okay? And then on page 87, how is Annie's teaching strict with Helen? So let's go back and look. On page 87, whatever I spell to Helen, I'd better spell right. So we know she's been strict with her if she's literally spelling every single letter into her hand, if she's taught her how to eat neatly, to keep herself clean, to crochet. Like, in 2 weeks, that's a lot to learn. So we know that Annie has not been like, all right, Helen, do whatever you want. She's been really firm with her to make sure that she's been able to learn all of these things. All right, we're going to start at the top of page 88. Again, if you have not written down the answers for page 86 and 87, pause the video, scroll back a little bit, and write those answers down on your notebook paper or, you know, any paper. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you do it on construction paper. Okay, top of 88. This is where we're starting. So when I did the scanning for this, this page is a little bit lighter. But we're starting up here with Kate and Annie in the garden house talking to each other. How serene she is. Serene means peaceful. So she's saying Helen looks so peaceful sitting there crocheting. She learned this stitch yesterday. Now I can't get her to stop. She disentangles one foot from the wool chain and sets the chair before Helen. Helen, at its contact with her knee, feels the plate promptly. She sets her crocheting down and tucks the napkin at her neck. But Annie withholds the spoon. When Helen finds it missing, she folds her hands in her lap and quietly waits. Annie twinkling at Kate with mock devoutness. She's such a little lady. She'd sooner starve than eat with her fingers. She gives Helen the spoon and Helen begins to eat neatly. Okay, whoa. This is a huge change, right? When she doesn't have the spoon, she doesn't just go in with her fingers. She waits patiently. She tucks the napkin into her shirt, into her dress. Like, she waits for the spoon. This is something that 2 weeks ago we would have not seen Helen do. So we can see there are lots of changes in Helen. You've taught her so much in these 2 weeks. I would never have. Not enough. She's suddenly gloomy and shakes her head. Obedience isn't enough. Well, she learned 2 nouns this morning, key and water, brings her up to 18 nouns and 3 verbs. But not that they mean things. It's still a finger game, no meaning. She turns to Kate abruptly. Mrs. Keller. But she defers it. She comes back to sit in the bay and lifts her hand. Shall we play our finger game? Kate, how will she learn it? It will come. She spells a word. Kate does not respond. How? How does a bird learn to fly? She spells it again. We're born to use words like wings. It has to come. How? So Kate keeps repeating how, right? We're up here. She says, how is she going to learn? How is she going to learn, right? And Annie keeps saying she's got to learn. She'll figure it out. How does a bird learn to fly? Like, we just have to keep going. All right, I don't know how. She pushes up her glasses to rub her eyes. I've done everything I could think of. Whatever she's learned here, keeping herself clean, knitting, stringing beads, metals, setting up exercises each morning, we climb trees, hunt eggs. Yesterday a chick was born into her hands. All of it. I spell everything we do. We never stop spelling. I go to bed with writer's cramp from talking so much. So basically she's saying her hands get sore from spelling so many letters every day. With no answer. Except keep at it, like this. She begins spelling, I need, and Kate's brows gather, following the words. More time? So Annie is not only teaching Helen, she's also teaching Kate. What does this show us about Kate as a mom? It shows us that Kate really cares about Helen, and we've always known this, but Annie is like, it's not enough for Helen to know, like the mom and dad have to know too. Well, I don't know if Captain Keller's been learning sign language, but Kate has been learning sign language, and she can even interpret and understand the words that Annie's spelling into her hand. She glances at Annie, who looks in her eyes, silent. Here, spell it. All right. On page 88, what does Annie show to demonstrate how much Helen has learned? All right, we already talked about that. She brings the food over, right? And she shows her manners, her crochet, how she eats with the spoon, how she waits to eat with the spoon, how she uses the napkin properly, all of that. And Kate is super impressed. But Annie's not impressed. I mean, she's like, it's on page 89, why do you think Annie is not happy with Helen only be able to remember the patterns of sign language? So anything that Annie asks Helen to spell, Helen can spell it back, right? She can spell back water. She can spell back mug. She can remember those patterns. But why is Annie still frustrated? We've already talked about this. She's frustrated because Helen's not associating that, like, this is what water is. This is what a cup is. This is what a mug is. Helen doesn't understand that words have meaning. She still thinks it's a game. All right, so let's think about these two questions. What does Annie think will happen if Helen goes back too soon? All right, so Helen has learned so much already, but she still doesn't get it, right? So Annie asks for more time, and if Helen goes back too soon, what could happen? Think about how Helen acted before this, who she would always run to, right? She would always run to her parents for things to get her out of something she didn't want. She would throw tantrums, right? So think about those things as you answer that question. And then the next part of the question, so it's two parts. So what does Annie think will happen if Helen goes back too soon? And then what do you think will happen if Helen goes back too soon? Those could be the same thing. Those could be different things, right? Make sure you answer those questions using a complete sentence. And that's where we're actually going to stop our reading for today. So we don't have that much left of the book. The book ends on page 112. So we only have like 20-something pages left. So we'll read about 10 more tomorrow, and then 10 more on Wednesday, and we'll be done with the book. All right, so here is your output. We're going to be writing an expository paragraph. So write a paragraph explaining whether tough love works to change behavior. So for the next part, here's what I would do if I were you. Get out 2 more sheets of paper. Again, it does not matter what type of paper it is. It can be blank white paper, blank construction paper, lined paper, because I'm going to walk you through how to write this expository paragraph. Okay, I kind of put a video within a video. So yesterday I took a video of myself actually writing the expository paragraph, and I embedded that video inside this video. So I'm going to walk you through the plan. So you need one paper to plan and one paper to write your expository paragraph. All right, so I tried to make this video and put it actually into the PowerPoint. And the recording worked, the audio, but when I turned the PowerPoint into a video, it didn't actually show the video. It just you could just hear the audio. So in order to see me walk you through the expository paragraph, you need to go to https://tinyurl.com/Tolson expository. If you are a subscriber to my YouTube channel, which is Miss Tolson, it's already up there. And I will post a link to the video in the Teams thread as well. It did not work as well as I wanted it to in the video, so I apologize for making you have to go 2 different places to get the full lesson. But if you watch the expository video that I made, you are guaranteed to do a good job on your expository paragraph. So it is strongly recommended that you go watch that, because it's been a while since we've done expository paragraphs, and I want to make sure that you do a good job. When you go and you put in your paragraph in the form, it looks like this. So I'm actually going to have you write it in sentence by sentence. So you're not just going to type your whole paragraph in one box, because what I've noticed is some of you are doing a great job and you're writing a full paragraph, and some of you are writing a sentence when you should be writing a paragraph. So as you saw in the video before, you need many sentences. So it'll say something like write your topic sentence, and you'll write your topic sentence. Write your defined sentence, and then you write your defined sentence. So hopefully by doing this, I'm going to help you to write your full paragraph. And I just want to say, you guys are doing, for the most part, a really great job. I'm so proud of you. There are so many of you, Carlos Cristobal, Jocelyn Garcia, Julissa Reyes, Juan Carlos, Angel Hernandez, I'm thinking of off the top of my head, who have been just doing a rock star job, Ariel, Lewis, and I just really thank you for doing such a good job. If I forgot your name, it's not that you're not doing a good job, it's that I'm trying to remember it off the top of my head. I know this was a long lesson, so thank you for sticking with it, and I love you. Be good. Have a wonderful day.